and welcome back to the channel. And today we've got Jack Drury from Shure. On our previous video we did, which you can find down in the description below or up in the corner up here, we did the brief introduction of the Axient system. So maybe let's dive a little bit further into it and let's, some tech calls we get, and I'm sure you do as well, that's the gain structure of the system.
Gain structure, yes, and it's totally different with the digital radio microphone systems to anything else really.
Yep.
And if you are, church is a great example.
Yeah.
If we get a lot of churches who've had analog systems in for years and years and years, and they have a transmitter and a receiver gain and then an output gain, and they'll put a digital system in like this and it suddenly sounds completely different and the gain structure is completely different.
Yes.
And it's the most important thing to get right, of
100%.
course. We always talk about gain structure. So in a digital system, we don't have a transmitter and receiver gain. All that goes out of the window, because from the point that we have RF coming out of the back of this unit, we're not modulating an analog carrier in the same way to carry analog information. Still an analog carrier, but now we are modulating it to carry digital information. So essentially the point that, in terms of the structure of a transmitter like this, that the energy gets out of about here, we've gone from analog into digital, and then we're digital all the way through.
Yeah.
And if we're in Dante as well, we're digital all the way through, probably until the speakers now.
Yes, agreed.
So how do you figure out gain structure for something like that? Different manufacturers do it different ways. Different RF systems have different ways of doing it. Axient Digital actually uses a stereo analog to digital converter in its transmitter. The reason that we do that is, even though we're still, obviously using a mono source, having a stereo analog to digital converter allows us to have a high gain side and a low gain side. So technically, we are sampling all the information twice at two different gain levels. Now, what doesn't happen, there's a lot of misinformation out there about this, what does not happen is the receiver switches between the two, right? It's not like some weird kind of compressor limiter where it's like, oh, this is a high gain signal, I'm going to go there. The way it works is very similar to kind of HDR rendering in cameras. That tends to be something people kind of understand a lot more, because it's how iPhone cameras work and things like that. It is constantly processing the information from both of the sides of that converter to give us a much bigger dynamic range. So sampling it in this way means that we can have a huge dynamic range. We can have 120 dB of dynamic range in an Axient digital system.
Great.
So then how do you kind of run that in a gain structure? Well, we do have a gain within this unit. We can see it here, and you'll see it on the desk as well. We'll see it in Wireless Workbench. But it's not really working as a gain. It's more of a digital trim. So you've got, net gain coming in is always the same. And then depending on what we do with this number, the gain's going to change. But it's one system gain throughout the entire thing. So
understood, if
I put a 6 dB pad on this, and then I put a plus 6 dB boost on this side, it nets out to be 0, right? And you're not going to change the sound at that point, so you might as well just have left everything
it
as
0.
A really, really useful menu to go into just to see exactly what gain you're working with, because it can get quite confusing. We're going to the channel menu this time, so we're going to click a channel, which is me. Click that jog wheel, we get a different set of instructions now. I can go into audio and then system gain, and it will actually give me a map.
Perfect.
So I can see exactly what I just described. Right, a minus 6 dB pad, and then a plus 6 dB receiver gain nets out to be, kind of 0 at this end. And then, depending on what output we're coming out of, we have a couple of different gain values. So, coming to this rack on the bottom now, we can see the reverse of it. I've got XLR and TRS. I've also got AES and Dante and secondary Dante as well. So there's loads of output options on a rack like this. And I can see here that at the 1/4 inch, the net gain is plus 24, and at the XLR, essentially line level, because of where we've got the dip switches set, it's plus 34. And you can control all of that from this menu structure here.
Fantastic.
There is still some workflows where people like to have kind of transmitter and receiver settings, and that's why everything's kind of left as it is. We also find, rock bands or, certain church performers as well will have very high output guitars and things of that nature.
Very much.
And there's still a desire to kind of put the pad in the body pack just to make sure that everything, you don't really need to do it. You can just run everything off of the receiver gain and be done with it.
That's really, really good. Great. Thanks, Jack. That's a really good look into the system gain of the Axient system. So thanks ever so much for watching. Please like, subscribe. There'll be links in the description to some of the other videos, or they may be up here. So thanks a lot, and we'll see you all in the next one.